Hey, hi, it's me, your Void, and it is about to get spooky again. I felt like recommending books that people could read in the spooky season, so I decided I'm just making a video out of that. None of this follows any kind of order. These are not my top 10 spooky books. These are not even 10 spooky books, to be precise. They are not all from the same genre, although looking at the stack I have right here, they are very similar in their genre. Not all of them are horror. Not all of them are just Gothic, although that's pretty much all the genres I have in here. And not all of these are taking place during fall or anything. It's just books that I feel are good to be read during a season that most people proclaim spooky season. I myself would read these in and around October. That's the vibe we're going here with. It's giving spooky. Shitty intro aside, maybe this will one day help for like a readathon where there's the problem to read something spooky. I don't know, I don't care. I just felt like making this video, and this is my YouTube channel, so I can do whatever the fuck I want, and this is what I want to do. So shut up, let me talk about books. First book we have on my list of reading spooky things in spooky season is the first ever horror novel I ever read, and that is 13 Stories by Jonathan Sims. Not the head archivist of the Magnus Institute in London, but the guy who wrote the podcast. And speaking of the Magnus Archives, this book reads like a season of the Magnus Archives. I'm not getting tired of saying that, because in 13 Stories we follow multiple people who all live in the same building, and it has 12 stories. The 13th one is a penthouse where the owner of the building lives, and we follow these random people who have seemingly nothing to do with each other. They have nothing in common with each other except that they all live in this building, and very strange things start to happen to all of these people. These strange things are not connected to each other. Everyone has their own kind of thing going on, but they are all horrific in one or another way, and you see these people suffer through these horrific events that are just happening to them, and then you start to see threads, and then at some point the threads connect to each other, and by the end all of them are invited to the 13th floor of this building, and things happen, and they find out what the reason for these things is. I loved this book when I first read it. It was so good. It was so fun. And again, it reads like a short season of the Magnus Archive, so if you are a fan of the Magnus Archives, I can only recommend reading the book by the man. We stick around with Jonathan Sims for a hot second because the man wrote another book called Family Business. This one does not compare to the Magnus Archives at all, because this one is its own story. In this one, we follow a woman who recently lost her best friend, and she's kind of struggling to find meaning in her life. Everything kind of went to shit for her, so she's struggling a bit, and she's looking for a new job, and she found a new job with a family-run business that is specializing in cleaning houses after people died there. Specifically, if these people died horrifically or haven't been found for a hot second. They are basically crime scene cleaners, but without the crime scenes. We have an old lady that died at home, but no one found her. We have a bartender who found a junkie that died in his backyard, basically, like stuff like that. They don't deal with the body themselves, they just clean with everything else around it, so still biohazard and all of that. And we follow this woman, and she is starting this job, and strange things start to happen to her. Namely, she sees visions of the people they are cleaning up after. She sees how they die. That in and of itself is kind of weird, but then she also realizes the way these people died is weird. And then again, threats start to appear, and they start to connect, and she realizes something with the family itself might also be kind of weird, and she is trying to figure out what is happening before it happens to her. Be advised, this one deals with themes of loneliness and abandonment, and this can hit really hard. Like, some of the scenes just, wow, they cut deep, so beware. Less horror, more gothic is At One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig, the first book in the Shepherd King duology. This one is on this stack because I love the atmosphere in here. The atmosphere is amazing. Like, imagine a forest on a cold fall day. The sun is just about to set and it is extremely foggy. That is the kind of vibe this whole book is giving you. Not just because there is a giant forest in a kind of cold season that is filled with fog, but like it just the whole book feels like that. And in this one, we follow a girl. Is she a girl? Is she a young adult? I don't quite know. I think she's a young adult. Anyway, we follow her and she just wants to survive in this world. The problem is when she was a child, she touched a magic card and now a nightmare creature is living inside her head and is literally talking to her and sometimes taking over her body and doing horrific things to people around her. And that is kind of dangerous in this world because these cards, yes, they can give magic, but also people can just have magic, and the people who have magic, they are being hunted down by inquisitors and they're being killed because if you have magic, it drives you insane. The only safe magic comes from these cards. So she is hiding away the fact that there is a monster living inside her head and that she may or may not have magic because she herself doesn't know if she has magic or not. But she has the talent, because of this nightmare in her head, she can see these cards. And people are treating these cards like Pokemon. They want to get them all. They want to get the whole deck, because when you get the whole deck, you can lift the curse that is this fog around the place. Because when you go into the fog, you lose who you are. You completely just forget everything about yourself, about where you're from, about where you're going. Probably also everything about Cotton Eye Joe. I don't know. And in order to lift this specific fog curse, they have to collect all of these cards and perform a funny little ritual. You might realize I'm not really talking about a plot here, because the plot is not the strongest thing of this book. The strongest thing of this book is the atmosphere, definitely. I also very much enjoyed the characters and some of the dynamics in here, not all of them. There is a romance in here, and it is kind of not in the forefront, but it's a solid middle ground. You can't escape it, but in my opinion, it's also not the most interesting thing in the world. I was more interested in the whole card collecting plot. But the best part about this is the relationship between this woman and the nightmare that is living in her head, because that nightmare is sassy as fuck. I love him. But yeah, the atmosphere is just great. The atmosphere is just spot on. So good. I very much enjoyed this one. The next book I'm going to recommend to you is Gallant by V.E. Schwab, which, yes, is a younger end YA, but it's still a solid horror. Like, these kids go through some shit, man. In this one, you basically have the setup of the secret garden. You follow a girl. She has no family. She's an orphan. She's living at an orphanage. And one day, someone sends out a letter and is like, hey, technically you still have family, and she's being called home to this family. But she quickly learns that not everything is as it seems, because at this household, the person who called her home died. And now the only person still alive is her cousin. And her cousin has so much shit going on, namely night terrors, active night terrors, and he is sleepwalking. First and foremost, he's trying to leave the house and go to the other side of the garden. Problem being, the other side of the garden is where he should not under any circumstances go, because once he goes there, he himself is basically a key and he unlocks the door to let the evil living on the other side through. That is kind of why she was called there, because there always needs to be someone of this family, of this bloodline in the house to carry this burden, to not open that door, to keep that door shut, so the evil on the other side can't come over. This one is beautifully written because it's V.E. Schwab, and I love V.E. Schwab. This is like a gothic horror take on the Secret Garden, the story of the Secret Garden. Of course, it's not going to go super horrific with anything, because again, it's a YA story, but it is just the atmosphere is so good. Like, this garden, I could perfectly imagine just living in that garden, living in that mansion, which by the way is also haunted. There are ghosts abundant everywhere, and it has this isolated setting, because this mansion is also set in the middle of nowhere in the forest. That again, we have the prevalent theme of nightmares. We also have a journal that presumably describes the descent into madness of the protagonist's mother. And when you figure out why she lost her shit, and what happened and how she is connected to this family is just... This is a beautifully written Gothic mystery thing, and if you know the way that V.E. Schwab writes, you know exactly what kind of mood this can evoke. I ate this one up. We are sticking with the YA books for a hot second because I now want to recommend to you The Spirit Bares Its Teeth by Andrew Joseph White. I just recently read this, and I have to say this is my favorite Andrew Joseph White so far, and I cannot wait for his next book, which will be his first adult horror, and I cannot wait. Because yes, this is YA horror, but Andrew Joseph White stretches it to the limits with what you can do that is still okay-ish to work through for teenagers. Wow. This also has every hallmark of you have a checklist of Gothic horror. This book checks it all. Ghosts, we got that. Strange happenings in old buildings, we have that. Setting in Victorian England, check. And some weird magic powers that are circling back on the whole rise in occultism during that time period. Check, check, and check. So in this world, we have people with violet eyes, and people with violet eyes can see ghosts. There was at one point a thinning in the veil, and now ghosts are more active in the world in general, and people started to be born with purple eyes, and people with purple eyes can see these ghosts. They can see where the veil is the thinnest, and they can open it and push these ghosts back through, or let the ghosts come in. We are in a Victorian society, so of course we have to hate women, meaning purple-eyed women are only useful for what exactly? Being married and having children in the hopes of having purple-eyed children. Because women cannot stomach the veil, and they will break their minds when they even try to work with these powers beyond their comprehension. Blah, blah, blah. And in the story, we follow Silas, who is a trans guy. He's a teenager, he is trans, and he has autism, so there are multiple reasons for his own society to hate him. Because being trans in Victorian England, of course, you are a sexual deviant. We have to lock you away. You are autistic. Oh no, your mind is broken. You are an imbecile. We need to lock you away. Have you ever considered lobotomy? You know, that kind of shit. And Silas desperately wants to break out because his parents are basically using him as breeding stock. They are basically advertising him for the wide world, and a lot of very old men, a lot of very creepy men are basically fighting over who gets to marry Silas, and it's all about the price tag, I guess. So it's really iffy. And Silas is like, how about no? So he comes up with a plan to ditch his family by disguising himself as someone who was about to be introduced into this super cool society. Purple-eyed men have this society, and they can basically do whatever the fuck they want once they're indoctrinated into the whole thing. So Silas steals the identity of someone who is about to be indoctrinated and hopes he can get indoctrinated, so that he gets basically like all the money, all the fame, all the like just resources to just fuck off and live his best life. But everything goes to shit, and it is discovered that he stole the identity of this other guy, and it turns out that he is AFAB, assigned female at birth, and that he already had issues with his mind and blah blah blah, and then he gets locked away into this school for purple-eyed girls where they are trained to be good housewives, and it's all under the guise of veil sickness that needs to be healed. And it's basically just trying to beat out the deviant behavior out of these kids. They are kids. And they get locked up for basically everything. One of the girls in this school is literally just a feminist, and that's what she got locked up for, basically. So, yeah. But, again, there are ghosts abundant, so there are some ghosts that tell Silas, hey bitch, not everything is as it seems, and also, help, please. And Silas, being Silas, is like, yeah, I'm helping! And he tries to figure out what happened to these ghosts, to these girls, and, yeah. That is the whole story. I rambled way too long about this book. I loved this book. This is such a good book. There's nothing else to say. I really enjoyed this book, and I really recommend you should read it. It's spooky season. It's also This one is also set in late fall, early winter. There is snow in this book, so maybe read that in November or something, I don't know. Let's take a step further in the age range and go to the YA new adult edge thingamathing thing with Belladonna by Adalyn Grace. This is another book with beautiful Gothic ambiance, and it is also set in a Victorian-esque England. I think this is actually like right before the Victorian era, but it's again the big old mansion in the middle of nowhere, lords and ladies, that kind of stuff. And in Belladonna we also follow an orphan, much like in Gallant, and she has been haunted by death ever since her birth. Quite literally. When she was a baby, her mom flaunted her around on a party, and everyone at that party died, except that little baby, because death took one look at the baby and went, and then the baby didn't die. But that baby grew up to be a girl that can see death, which very much intrigued Death. And then the people who took care of that girl just kept on dying. Up until now, where she is on her last family member, which happens to be this high society family. It's like a distant cousin or something. I don't quite remember. I think it was like cousins or something. So she goes and lives with them, and turns out one of her cousins is close to dying herself. And strangely enough, she is about to die the same way her mom died not too long ago. The girl we are following, she can see ghosts, she can see death. She doesn't like death, and she can see ghosts. And she sees the ghosts in this house, in this mansion, and these ghosts basically tell her or warn her about the impending death of her cousin, and she's now taking it upon herself to be like, no. This is the last bit of family I have, and everyone else around me always dies. I'm not gonna let this happen again. So she becomes a little bit of a sleuth and starts to investigate this mysterious and very painful death, and Death himself is like, I guess I can help you. And then we also have a little romance storyline in here between her and Death, and it's just very, very nice. It is a healthy mix of plot and atmosphere in this one, I feel, and it is definitely leaning more into the new adult side of things than into the young adult side of things. I was very much entertained by this, and this one has moods, TM again. This one is not on the edge of winter. This is pretty much like the vibe I was getting was fall, like smack down in the middle of fall, maybe the beginnings of fall. Definitely a bit more on the warmer side than The Spirit Bears Its Teeth. Very much enjoyed this one. We stay in the past with our setting, but we move away from Edwardian, Victorian, whatever the fuck all of their names was, era, and we go to the roaring 1920s with City of Carnal Delight by Chloe Parker. This one actually takes place in October. I think it ends on, it's either the final encounter or the ending is actually on Halloween. There is a Halloween event in this one, so you should read this in October, I guess. And in this one we follow an exorcist who has been hired to deal with the ghost of Jack the Ripper. And because Jack the Ripper was such a monster and so many people died very horrific deaths in Whitechapel, she has the good idea to enlist some help, namely the help of a medium to see where the ghosts are that she has to exorcise. A fire starter, he's described as a fire starter, but he's basically a pyromancer. He can summon flames and throw them around and control fire as like the muscle. And a soldier who had his face blown off in the World War, and they experimented with certain metals that had some magical abilities, I guess, and they put that in his face, like Phantom of the Opera style, but he can't take it off. And now one of his eyes can actually also see not only ghosts, but also like fey creatures, and he can identify other magical creatures like vampires and shit. And this illustrious team of people goes to Whitechapel and discovers there is much more than just the ghost of Jack the Ripper there, and shit happens all around. This book is kind of short. It's like, I think not even 300 pages. Yeah, it's not even 300 pages, but there is a lot going on in this one, and it was so good. The vibes, the atmosphere is just so spot on. The horrific elements, like shit that these ghosts pull, is so good. And somehow, on top of all of that, we also get a very well-written polyamorous romance between all of the characters I just described in here. This is a gothic horror romance that is perfect. I loved this book so much. And if you enjoyed this one, there's actually like you get one for free for the road, I guess. In Her Thrall is basically a loose that takes loose inspiration from Dracula. We have a vampiress who's just living her best life, and then a vampire hunter one day decides we need to go there and we need to kill her, and he takes a mentalist magician. Like, he's a mentalist, but he's not a fake mentalist. He can actually do shit. And a doctor, he just knows, takes these two boys with him to the house, and that doctor turns out to be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and shit happens around them as well. This is good stuff. This has good atmosphere, but all of this takes place only in the mansion, so if you want really hardcore gothic horror vibes, go for City of Carnal Delight. The vibes are so strong in this one. I can recommend both, but this one is the one for the spooky season. And then we changed formats for a hot second, because I can't do spooky recommendations without recommending one of my favorite comic universes of all time, which is the Slaughterverse by James Tynion the Fourth, with the House of Slaughter series and the original Something is Killing the Children series. Both of these are part of the Slaughterverse, and in the Slaughterverse you have children, and if they believe too much in monsters, these monsters can become real and they are very dangerous, and there are these houses. They have hunters. They take children who survived monster attacks like that, and they train them to be monster hunters. Because grown-ups can't see these monsters unless they are trained and go through a certain ritual to see these monsters. And in order to become one of these hunters, you have to trap your own monster. Like your own childhood nightmare, you have to trap that in a plushie, and that monster is then forced to help you. And then you go and hunt these monsters in order to prevent other kids from dying horrific deaths. In Something is Killing the Children, we follow Erica Slaughter, one of those hunters, and she is sent on a new mission in a new place, and she's starting to hunt out these monsters, and then she realizes, ooh, the problem is way bigger than we anticipated, and I think we need more than just me here to deal with that. And in the House of Slaughter, you have the story of Jace, also known as the Butcher, and what happened to his house and his family and his relationship to Erin, who's from another house. And you also have stories about other people from these houses that explain a bit more about the world building, specifically about the colors of the masks, because the mask color you are wearing is actually important. A black mask is a solitary hunter, a white mask is like a pack hunter, they hunt in packs and groups. Scarlet masks are the historians, they keep the records of everything. There are blue masks, there are gold masks, there's a lot of things to learn in the Slaughterverse, and I very much recommend that if you're looking for a horror comic. They are also currently working on turning Something is Killing the Children into a TV show, and the people working on that are the same people who worked on some really great and fucked up shit for Netflix. It's the people behind the show 1899 and what's it called? Dark? Was it Dark? I think it was Dark. Brilliant shows, they will break your mind. Good shit. Them getting their hands on Something is Killing the Children? Fuck yes. Yes. And the last recommendation I have for you is not gothic, it is not horror, it is not gothic horror, and I don't even think it's set in fall necessarily, but the vibes are just giving a grey day in November, so I had to put it in here just to appease my own brain. And that is The Last Smile in Sunder City by Luke Arnold. This is an urban-ish fantasy about a guy who is a private detective. He's a private eye, but he specifically only works for magical people. The problem is, there is no more magic, so technically there are no more magical people. Now, in this society you have everything. You have elves, you have dwarves, you have dragons, angels, vampires, the whole shebang, and you have humans. And one day, not too long ago, humans found the source of all magic, and they basically took a shit in it, and the magic decided, nope, nah, fuck off, and stopped existing. The problem is, it didn't just stop existing right then and there and prevented more magic from entering the world, it also took all of the already existing magic with it. So now a vampire, who is an inherently magical creature, does not have the magic to sustain itself. The magic that made them dependent on blood and allergic to the sun is not there anymore. So now they cannot drink blood to replenish their strength anymore. Problem being, they also never evolved in a way that would make them able to survive on normal food. So vampires, for example, are starving. Were creatures are stuck mid-transition. They have animal body parts, they have they have human-looking body parts, and they're kind of stuck in between. Elves who have lived for centuries without even having a thought about wrinkles now look like mummies that are just walking the streets because they are so old. The day it happened, dragons fell from the sky, splattered on the ground, and just disappeared, started melting away, basically. And we follow Fetch Phillips in this world that now needs to adapt to a life without magic when everything was based around magic. Humans were like the lowest of low in the whole pecking order because they never had magic and I always had to live without magic. But the fact that they had to live without magic their whole life now makes them the best suited to live in this new world. So we are seeing the shift in society right now, but also everyone knows that humans are responsible for magic dying out. So there's a lot of shit going on. And then you have this one guy who's like, yeah, I only work for magical people, but I am a human, and also I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Because Fetch Phillips stumbles from problem to problem. He has no idea what he is doing, but he keeps on doing it. And he is also haunted by a lot of guilt because he was involved in the whole thing that killed magic, which is why he now works for magical people. And his ultimate goal actually is to help these people and to hopefully one day bring magic back. I can't tell you why I had the urge to put this on this list. I just felt like it would fit in here perfectly. And there you go, some recommendations for your spooky season, or if you are ever in need of a gothic atmospheric thing to read or comic, or I don't know. This stack is very heavy, like for real, so I'm going to set it down now. I still don't know why I felt the need to make this video. I just felt like it, so I did, and now I have. And yeah, if you made it this far into the video, let me know if you have read any of these, if you have any additions to this list. I made you excited for any one of these. I know I just kind of rambled, so I don't really know if I actually recommended anything to you. If you don't feel like talking to me at all, but you still want to support me by leaving a comment, leave a spooky emoji down in the comments, be it broccoli or a ghosty or the jack-o'-lantern, I don't care. Anything that you deem spooky enough, leave it in the comments. And I guess I will see you in the next video. Bye!